Glad you had a good Thanksgiving and hope you're having a good week so far. I know that you were asking about the final, so I thought we're going to go over the annotated bibliography, and I'm going to update the peer partners as well because I know I haven't done that yet. I got done with the majority of the outlines. I think I only have just a couple left, maybe three of them of the classes I have. So I'm going to finish those and um, but we'll go over the annotated bibliography. It's very similar to the research topic proposal, in that the source summaries from the research topic proposals, you could incorporate that into the annotated bibliography. Just make it a little bit longer, at least around 4 to 5 sentences for the evaluation of the source.
That's what
But
I asked about the thing because I saw the example of the picture you gave us. I'm like, do we write in like a few sentences?
yes, let me find an example, and if I believe I had one in the module for this week, and then we can go ahead and go over the annotated bibliography first, and then what I could do is, and even for next week too. I know next week's our last week, and so I believe the paper is due on the 12th. So what I'm going to try to do is I want to try to get all the grades done by think 13th, get everything done. So that way that y'all, except believe that that's the last day of class. And so you would get everything done. So the final exam is due on the 11th. Like I said, I can just, go back to the regular screen and kind of just go over the types of things on the exam to study for. So I wanted to do that too, or at least start to do that and finish that next week. But for the annotated bibliography is due on the 7th, which is Saturday, I believe. Okay, I think I have that reversed though, because that probably got reversed somehow. So I want to change this because the revision worksheet actually should be on the, well, let me see what the dates I had. Looked like it did get, at least this class, it got a little bit messed up because the worksheet should come first. And so that's a works cited example. Let me find one for the annotated bibliography. Okay, so the annotated bibliography is supposed to be due the 7th, and then the worksheet was supposed to be due the 6th. So I want to update the dates to this too. So let me do this first. I want to update the dates because this is incorrect. So that is due the 7th, but the worksheet is due on the 6th. So I want to do that first, and then we'll take a look at how to construct the bibliography. Yeah, this is due. Wait, oh, okay, I put assign reviews and the due date. I want to try to see if I can. Yeah, I want to do this. I think that's why it's messed up. I'm new to Canvas too, so I don't think that it was gonna assign you a partner. I was hoping it would, but apparently it's not. So I'll do that as well. So let's see. And if you just want to review your own annotated bibliography, that is perfectly fine. And the discussion board, see, that should be due, I believe, also on the 6th. I believe I had that due on the 6th as well for some reason. Let's see. This should be due on maybe this due on the 6th. So it's not available. So I want to see, it should be available. And change this to the 6th. And then I'm going to go ahead all up for this class. I'm going to update the peer partners and fix this, and then we'll go over it. I'm sorry for the confusion about that. And so let's see. See for the peer review partners, we'll just use the same list from the last assignment. That would be And this, so the research paper will be due on the 12th. And for those of you that just joined in, I have the majority, almost all the outlines are back to you with feedback on the outlines. And we're gonna go over the annotated bibliography and at least start to kind of go over a final exam review. And so the final exam is due on the 12th, and so that means I'll be getting the grades in the 12th and 13th. And if you have any questions, just send me an email, or you can always give me a call or a text message as well. Let's see, this would be the revision. It's been several weeks since we had the last paper. So this one should have the correct list, because I know I had to adjust that sometimes too. So this may take just a second here. So this is for the 5-4 class. And I'm not going to copy this over because last time I did that, it did something to the assignments. Still says peer revision and annotated bibliography is due on the 8th, and I fixed that. So I'm really not sure why it keeps doing that, but just try to make sure you do get it in by the 6th. If it still says that, it's still going back to, I'm just going to say no peer reviews, and that should hopefully fix it. I don't say any peer reviews, it should be fixed. And then so like I said, you do not have to have a partner for this assignment. And you, like I said, you don't have to have a partner. If you would rather just review your own paper, that's perfectly fine. I'm gonna move to the next class here and see what this one says, and just make sure that it's corrected. But I believe that was like I said, I'm new to this too. I was assuming that the Canvas would assign you a partner, but it did not work out like that. So that is the reason why. Let me go ahead and change all the partners here too. That was weak. Probably the last essay has the most accurate peer review partners. Make sure. And yeah, we'll look at the structure and the annotated bibliography here in a minute. Do y'all have any questions about the annotated bibliography? Do you want to make sure to include at least, I believe it's at least in three or 4 sources, because you want 3 to 4 sources in your paper. And basically what an annotated bibliography does is you just start with, the author's name, and you basically just identify, what is the purpose of this article, what's their point of view, why are they writing this, and then you basically just explain how you're going to use that source in your paper. And if you have any problems with counter arguments or finding sources, you do not have to, if you cannot find an opposing viewpoint, you can always just make up your own opposing viewpoint based on what you think an opposing viewpoint might be logically, and use that as your opposing view. So you do not have to, if you are not able to find an opposing viewpoint to help you to refute an opposing view, then just you could even make up your own, as long as it's logical and you can refute it. Hopefully this will update to and say the 6th. Like I said, I do not know. Let's see. And that's probably why I put it somehow got the 8th was when it was available from. That should be updated. And then fix the last one real quick, and then we'll take a look at an annotated bibliography. I do have PowerPoint on that too. And when you review for the final exam, I really recommend that you just review the PowerPoints. That should be a great help. Any videos that like from our discussions and things like that should be helpful too. Just kind of review over the main points from the course and the readings from writing spaces, and that should be about all that you need to review. And you can retake the final exam. Like say you did not do well in it, you can always retake it. It is, not a one-time thing because this is an online class. The main emphasis in this class is on writing. So I do allow multiple attempts on tests and quizzes. So you may retake it if you, and as long as it's through, it's like everything really needs to be turned in by midnight on the 12th. Because like I said, I'm gonna be getting grades done no later than the 13th. And so you should be able to see your grades then, and because that's the last day, or that's when classes end and everything. So I'm gonna try my best to get those grades done by the 13th, and that way you can enjoy your break too. Because I believe that this class ends the last day is supposed to be around the 12th, so that's why the paper is due on the 12th. So let's see, the annotated bibliography, superior vision. So yeah, so this looks like it's updated correctly. Okay. So what we'll do now is let's go back to this module here. And so I know it's weeks 15 through 18. Everything is just kind of combined in this one module. But let's see. So there is a PowerPoint on the annotated bibliography, and I download this because I'm almost positive I have an example in this PowerPoint. Okay, so it should be around 100 to 300 words. Let's see if I can. Should have, yeah. So for example, and this is the only thing is this particular example, you would not need a bullet point. And actually, there's a couple of things I would still correct myself about this citation. And of course, you would not need the bullet points. And you actually italicize the journal title, and and you do not need a bullet point there. And you would use 12-point font. So basically, it's just like a works cited page. It's in 12-point font, double space, Times New Roman. Well, this still looks smaller than 12-point font, but I'll pull up another example too. But this is the correct way you would write it anyhow, for the most part. So you always cite the author's last name, comma, their first name, the title of the article. Then you have the journal, if it's a journal, the volume, the number, the year published, and the pages. And then directly under that, you would have, still trying to make this Times New Roman. So directly under that, you see that reads Herbert London, the Dean of Journalism at New York University and author of several books and articles, explains how television contradicts 5 commonly believed ideas. He uses specific examples of events seen on television, such as the assassination of JFK, to illustrate his points. His examples have been selected to contradict such truisms as seeing is believing, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and satisfaction is its own reward. London uses logical arguments to support his ideas, which are his personal opinion. He does not refer to previous works on the topic. London's style and vocabulary would make the article of interest to the reader. The article clearly illustrates London's points, but does not explore their implications, leaving the reader with many unanswered questions. So the only thing with this particular annotated bibliography, this example of an annotation, excuse me, is that though they did a really good job of articulating where London is coming from, what he's doing, how he's arguing, they point out his weaknesses too, why this is really not as great as it seems because he does not refer to any previous works on the topic. So you do want to think about the input that they're putting, the types of points they're making, the research they've done, and who their audience is. So if it's just his personal opinion, their personal opinion, and there's nothing to really back up what they're saying, then that is a problem. And so basically this is focusing on the ethos or the credibility of this particular author here. And so at the end, they're just saying that that the author clearly articulates their points, but does not explore their implications, and saying that this is problematic for their reader. So the only thing you would want to add to this would be just to say, well, this would be great in refuting this idea, or this would be great to prove my point. So you, at the very end, you would also want to add how how you're going to use this source in your paper. And I believe I put the art where I found this from. So let's go to this link here. And like I said, there's a lot of, especially with Purdue OWL. Purdue OWL has a lot of resources too. Actually, it's not coming up. So I'm gonna type in annotated bibliography from Purdue. That there should be an example on here, or information. And even the Jeff State, the English 101 webpage, I believe, has an example. So samples of annotated bibliographies. Okay, so you see here, sorry that I'll move this over here too. So you see here, and the only thing is that they were not able to indent the second line. So you want to always indent the second line of each annotation. Or sorry, each citation, excuse me, each citation you need to indent after the first line. But we see this is cited correctly. It's Lamont, and author's first and last name, the title of the book, and then the publisher and the year. And then the annotation, this is kind of a long annotation, but basically that it looks like that they are, really kind of evaluating their arguments and their logic. But at the end here, you see the difference between that other annotation. And like I said, your annotation doesn't have to be this long, but this one does explain, let's see. It does explain here that rather than a practical handbook to producing and or publishing, this text is indispensable because of its honest perspective, its down to earth humor, and its encouraging approach. So they look at the whole perspective here of what this book is doing. But once again, you would want to explain how this would prove your point. Let's see, here's another example. This is the author's last name, their first. They have the source here, italicized, and then the publisher. In this book of nonfiction based on the journalist's experiential research, Ehrenreich attempts to ascertain whether it is currently possible for an individual to live on a minimum wage in America, taking jobs as a waitress, a maid, and cleaning service, and a Walmart sales employee. The author summarizes and reflects her work, her relationships with fellow workers, and her financial struggles in each situation. So this is clearly saying what they're doing. And then they go on, though, to be a little bit more specific, because that's just basically only scratching the surface of explaining what they're doing here. And the experienced journalist Ehrenreich is aware of her limitations of her experiment and the ethical implications of her experiential research tactics, and reflects on these issues in the text. Author is forthcoming about her methods and supplements her experiences with scholarly research on her places of employment, the economy, and the rising cost of living in America. And then they sum up her project is timely, descriptive, and well-researched. So we see here that this statement here is just really important in this particular annotation. The author is forthcoming about her methods and supplements her experiences with scholarly research. So we know that this is a credible source here. It's backed up. But the only thing is, like I said, that to add, just adding in how you would use it. But the topic sentence is always going to just be a general overview. in this book of nonfiction, you could even, a lot of times you start with, Ehrenreich attempt, they could just say Ehrenreich attempts to ascertain whether it's currently possible for an individual to live on minimum wage in her book or in the source. And then it says exactly, what she's doing. And then this focuses on her awareness of her limitations and exactly where her research is coming from. And then this says the annotation above both summarizes and assesses the book and the citation. The first paragraph provides a brief summary of the author's project in the book, covering the main points of the work. The second paragraph points out the project's strengths and evaluates his methods and presentation. Of course, this is a Chicago style, so we are not using that. Make sure that the first one, I believe, should be considered MLA. Let's see here. I thought my computer was getting frozen up here for a second. Actually, that's an APA. Excuse me. I was wondering why there was a year there. So actually, that is. So you would just want to. So this is an MLA. But essentially, even in APA, that they are doing essentially the same thing. But make sure that in your papers, one thing I really saw in the outlines, though they're very specific. The only difference between the APA in this particular in this context and the MLA is that year there, essentially the year. In MLA, we use page numbers. We do not use years released or published. And the majority of the outlines that I've graded, and I only have there's a couple left, the majority, there's only just a few students that use MLA that they were bringing in a citation with author's last name and the page number, paragraph, or just even the citation having the article title in brackets without the year in it. So anytime you set a year in brackets, that is APA format, and that is for like social sciences and like sociology and psychology majors, or counseling, those particular subjects. So we don't use APA until if you may have some classes later on in your studies that would require you to use APA, but it would be if you're taking a psychology class or maybe sociology. One of those, especially if you're a sociology or a psychology major. But for English courses, we use MLA format. And like I said, we cite author's last name, page number, or the article title, page number, paragraph, if known, or you just cite the article title or source title if that's all you know in the brackets. But essentially that the APA is pretty much the same. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I was like looking at it and thinking that looked a little, the citation part looked a little bit different, but this one doesn't even put the page numbers that they were using. You would want the page numbers, but that they have the author's name, the title of the book, and then the publisher and the year published. But inside, so I noticed they did not put an in-text citation. You could possibly do that as well. If you put in a direct quote into your annotation. Just trying to see here. There's any more. I want to try to find also just another so there are see if there's any examples here. Okay, so that's APA though. Let's see. MLA example. Okay, here's another one. Okay, so you see that this is from, so this was the one I showed you. So this is how it would be structured here, that one by London, the one from the PowerPoint. So you see how it's indented after the first line and everything lines up correctly. The author's last name, comma their first name, the article title, title of the journal. And actually, like the mistake I did see here was that You would want to italicize the title of the journal, um, the pages, and so essentially that we've already looked at how that one was structured. And here's another one. So it will look like this, where you would not have anything in between here, but let's say that this was alphabetical order. It would just look like the annotations would look like that, and that's how it would look like on the page. And I'll try to find another page that actually has it. And let's see if we can find another one that's so look, for example, this one, Dahl, Susan and Greg Fowler, Blade Runner and genre, film noir and science fiction. So that the title of the website, or sorry, excuse me, the article here. It'd be the article, not a website. But the article titles in quotes. You would want to italicize literature, film, quarterly, however, because it is a journal title, and then the volume and the number, the year, the pages. And this right here, it would want to line up with this line, but like I said, that there's always things to kind of point out or whatever. So you would actually want to cite with Dahl and Fowler assert that Ridley Scott's film Blade Runner exhibits elements of two distinct pulp genres, film noir and science fiction. So the topic sentence here is automatically saying specifically what are they doing, why does their work stand out, and how, just giving you an idea of what specifically these particular scholars are doing with their research here. And the genre cross-pollination is a reflection of Philip K. Dick's novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, upon which the movie is based. So then they define this genre that these scholars are working in. They specifically define it. And then they go on to say, after a useful discussion of genre, the authors go on to effectively discuss defining characteristics of both noir and sci-fi, despite the difficulties of such a project. So then this is saying, what exactly they're doing. After they discuss and define the characteristics of these two genres, so the authors go on to, sorry, after the discussion of the genre, they go on to effectively discuss defining characteristics of both these two genres. And then they go on to say, through the course of accessible discussion and useful examples from the film, the complexities involved in the combination of genres are revealed. So once again, they're saying that these scholars are going deeper, and they are finding that the complexities involved in the combination of the genres are revealed. In addition, the article also examines the ways that noir and sci-fi, in fact, complement each other. Noir providing a distinct style and sci-fi a distinct direction. So basically, this is the big point here, that if you were looking for the main point, what are they really doing with their research? Why is this meaningful research these scholars are doing? It'd be this point, that the article examines the ways that noir and sci-fi in fact complement each other. So after they have this academic conversation on these two genres, that they realize they complement each other, noir providing a distinct style and sci-fi a distinct narrative direction. So if you're writing a paper on genres, for example, you would say how this perspective is either helping your perspective, or you're going to use this perspective to refute this, you're going to refute this argument. Both genres are also very concerned with many of the same issues, especially social constructs. Okay, so one thing that I would point out too, they did a really good job of breaking down what they're doing with their research and the conclusion that they made, and why they think that. And they define the terms really well. But you would want to explain how you would use this source in your research at the very end here, instead of just leaving it by saying both genres are also concerned with many of the same issues. So you would want to add that to it. And then this one, by Renner, Stanley, red hair, very red, close curling. So we have the author's last name, the first name, the article title, and we do have, it's in Henry James, The Turn of the Screw edition. editors Peter G. Beidler, and then Boston is where it's published. Bedford Books is the publisher, the year and the pages. And then once again, that you would want to line up Renner here instead of placing it there. So that's the only thing that I see with the lineup of it. But they go on to say what the author is, what's the purpose of what is the author doing with this particular research that they're conducting. It says Renner asserts that what has previously been considered a supernatural event in James's turn of the screw is actually a psychological one. So they're saying this is the author's perspective, and here's why. You're going to say, here's why. According to Renner, James was in fact using the psychosis of the governess to comment on repressive Victorian ideals and their effects on individuals. So then they go on to just expound on why it's a psychological one, why is it, and they explain. And then they go on to say, Renner uses a little bit of biography to show that James would have been familiar with sexual hysteria, but the more successful part of the article is his careful analysis of physiognomical stereotyping in the Victorian era. So it goes on, and I know that term is something that basically that it ties into identifying personal characteristics with physical appearance. That is, it's kind of not a very popular term, that physiognomical. But anyhow, here, like especially with literature, that when you're reading a character and you see they're described a certain way, and then that somehow connects to their portrayal, whether they are seen as the villain or the hero in the text, it's helpful. It's kind of similar to direct characterization or indirect characterization, in a sense that indirectly that you can see that the author is trying to hint at how they're supposed to be seen, and maybe some direct characterization there as well. But anyhow, that we see here specifically how that they are doing this. So we see that it's a psychological one, and then that we ask why and then how. So you can see how the questions, when you're writing, you start with what is their purpose, why, and then how. Renner uses a little bit of biography to show that James would have been familiar with sexual hysteria, and then the final conclusion is his central argument effectively links the onset of the governess's sexual hysteria and hallucination with the influence of Victorian assumptions about character and physical appearance. So basically, this just goes on to sum up, once again, their stance. So this is his central argument. So that's basically their stance. So they could go on and say, how they're going to use this in their paper, or maybe expound on this a little bit, but that's long enough, for an annotation. It's there's 4 sentences, but you can kind of see how, once again, you give the overview. What is this article saying? What is this author doing? Then you ask yourself, why, why is this society, you based on the last part here, you could ask the question why, and then how, and then sum up here, what is the overall point based on these gatherings, these questions that you've asked. But as a writer, constantly asking questions, probing will help you to write better, and really helps with expository writing. Just, continually asking questions will make you a more detailed writer. And you can kind of see, especially with annotation, the first line is just, what is the purpose of this article? And then you ask yourself why, and then how. That's just a good way to think about how you can um, um, sort of construct it. What, why, and how are the questions that you want to ask as you are evaluating the sources, after you have summed up the purpose of the author's argument here. And let me see if I can just find MLA example. I know that there's some other ones. You might go under images here. Okay, so this is a marked up. This will enlarge here. It should hopefully. I'm not really sure what just popped up here. This is wanting me to don't want to view this ad. Okay. All right. So you see here, this is a marked up paper. So you see 1-inch margins. We have the 1/2 inch indent, 1-inch margins overall, 1-inch margin, 1/2 inch here. We see that, and I can try to see if I can add this to the page as well. And then you see the annotate bibliography is centered. So let's say door, comma John, measure what matters, his Google Bono and the Gates Foundation rock the world with OKRS. Penguin 2018. So we have the first line indented 1/2 inch. Once again, the citation, the first line is indented, the second one is. And then you have, once again, the purpose of the book. This book is written by Doerr, who is a chair of a venture capitalist group. This could be a little bit better because, once again, it could be stating what is he doing with this book. It could this one's topic sense could be a little bit better here, obviously, after we looked at those others. But then they go on to state, the purpose of the book. The book describes how, I mean, they really could just start here. The book describes how business organizations can use OKRs to drive the focus of a company through agility, which leads to explosive growth. There, and then, so we see the purpose, and then we see the why question here answered. There are first person behind the scenes case studies narrated by leaders like Bill Gates and Bono. And then we see the how being answered. The book helps guide understanding of business and management strategies that drive the success of large companies. So critique of this one would just be that this first sentence here, really not necessary. They could have just started here. We do see what they're doing here with their research, and they say exactly what the book is doing with the summary, and they could state how it ties into their research a little bit more specifically. So this is a little bit different here. So those other examples, they didn't just say an overview, so and so wrote this book. They would actually go ahead and say, I would just once again cross this line out here. We have Wilson, John Philip, title of the book, the publisher, and the year. I would just cross through that and say, they start with saying it's a supplement to the anthology published in 128 volumes, The War of the Rebellion, a compilation of the official records of the Union and Confederate armies. Even that, I would probably just start here. The author is a historian, archaeologist, who writes a book for including primary documents, and offers a fresh narrative of the English War in the New Mexico Territory. And then say many people think of the Civil War as a battle between the Union and Confederacy. The book gives the Civil War history researcher a glimpse. This one I would definitely say that's too vague. So this just kind of shows you what you don't want to do. Like this is just, it's very vague. And not going into the detail that we saw with the other examples. This just kind of shows you more or less, this is the format here. This is how you want it structured. And really the first one probably is a little bit better example, except, I would just cross through that first sentence. But as you start to look for the, purpose, what, why, and the what, why, and how, as you're writing this, that's how you want to evaluate those sources, and then explain at the very end, just, how does this fit into your research? Will you use this to prove your argument, or are you going to use this to refute it? And you can create your own counter arguments. You don't have to find opposing viewpoints if you're unable to. Don't worry about it. You can make up your own as long as it's logical and refute it. Y'all have any questions about the annotated bibliography?
No, you actually explained it perfectly.
No.
Well, I'm glad that that was helpful. And what I can do really quickly too is I want to go ahead and I want to go through the final exam here and just kind of go over maybe just tell you some things to review from the final exam, and we'll continue this into next week. Next week we'll next Tuesday we'll meet at our regular. They will meet at our regular time, probably 9 o'clock. Or if we rather do 8 o'clock, then that's okay. Two. See, I'm trying to think next week what days. Tuesday. Make sure that whatever. And so next Tuesday is. Is the 10th. So next Tuesday, then we have okay. So yeah, so next Tuesday, I'm trying to think. Yeah, that should, well, let's see. Yeah, we may have to meet at even maybe Monday instead or something. And let me double check. So I know I have some things coming up that week too. So the Tuesday is the 10th. So probably actually next week we'll really need to meet on Monday, and that way that'll give you enough time to review. And I'll put that in the weekly announcement. We'll meet at Monday and probably 8 or 9 o'clock. Probably 8 o'clock again on Monday. Just because Tuesday I'd have something to do right at that time. So we'll meet 8 o'clock on Monday, and we'll finish we'll actually need to go over the research paper in more detail. We'll do that, and then the final exam review, we'll continue that too. So that's what we'll do next Monday is the research paper review and final exam review. So make sure to just kind of review over the articles, just looking at some of the questions, review the writing spaces articles, just review those articles and what the purpose is, like things like discourse communities or, even in the videos too, and especially the writing spaces, just review things like discourse community, and ethos, pathos, logos. You want to know all those terms. And obviously, we've already talked about annotation, but you'll want to know, what you're supposed to do when you're annotating a text. And persuasive language, make sure to review that as well. And different types of claims, review the types of claims, and just standard structure of how do you format a paper in MLA, just those basic things. And once again, since we're focusing on rhetoric, just make sure to review what rhetoric is, the definition of it, and once again, just review. I would review and reread those articles too, because some of my questions I know came from those articles, from the writing spaces. And there is a question on ethos, pathos, and logos, and logical fallacies. Review those as well. And also we talked about inductive and deductive reasoning. Review those terms as well. and terms like analogy or art types of argumentation. So the types of argumentation like syllogism or analogy, review those terms as well. And then once again, just make sure you have reviewed the different types of claims. And we left off, and so I'm just gonna pause here for now, and we'll just, so that is through question 15, and I think there's 30 questions, so I'll continue just kind of going over the types of things to review for that through Monday. That's generally probably the main points to really that in general. But I'll pick this up to of course, what the definition of genres and rhetoric are, the basic things like that too. So some of it is just, like I said, it's just a review, but I would really just review those the writing spaces articles that we've read. And I would also just make sure that you review the PowerPoints too. But y'all have any other questions?
No, ma'am.
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Well, I hope that y'all have a great night, and I will see